offline compared to online retail is still actually a very large fraction of consumer spending. So although online is growing quite dramatically, as of now, essentially still about 90% of total retail spending happens in the offline world. And firms are still trying to figure out how to best promote products, how to best run price promotions, things of that sort. And so we wanted to go back and see, can we actually use tools that we learned about in the online world, better types of measurement, and can we bring that back to the offline world and try to track things better? So we know if I run an ad online, I typically can track, did somebody click on it, did they again go to my website, how much did they spend? All this linkage is much closer, and those are often things that we don't observe in the offline world. Right? So an online retailer would know, how did this consumer get to the product they ultimately purchased? We can observe their browsing with a lot of precision. Offline, there's usually no equivalent. Traditionally, we weren't able to see how did somebody walk through the store, how did they actually get to the specific aisle where they then picked up products. And so what we do in the study is we actually bring in a new measurement tool that's going to mimic the way we're going to observe things online in the offline world. And in particular, what we're going to do is we're going to rig consumer shopping carts, if you will, with so-called radio frequency identification tags, which work like a GPS tracker that allow us to track exactly how does somebody walk through the store, which categories do they walk past, what do they eventually end up purchasing. If in a particular week the supermarket is running a beer ad, do more people buy beer? That we were usually able to observe even before, but now we can also see, did actually more people go to the beer aisle? So did that advertising attract people to go to a different part of the store that they wouldn't have otherwise gone to, and then they made the purchase? If that's true, then maybe this advertising will have positive spillovers to other categories. So maybe people on their way to the beer aisle are now going to pick up salty snacks, other things. And so there's sort of anecdotally a lot of that sense that we are going to get these kind of spillover effects. So people often talk about the fact that milk gets stored in the back of the store. Why? Because people buy it very frequently, and having it in the back of the store makes them walk past a lot of other categories, and hence they might pick up other things that they didn't plan on buying on their way. And so you could imagine that advertising does something very similar. If advertising allows me to divert traffic to other parts of the store, then maybe products I pass on that way are also going to end up in my purchase basket. And so that was something that we weren't usually able to observe. So for a store manager, the good news here is that advertising is quite effective beyond just the individual product being advertised. So what we find is that when you advertise a particular brand of beer, sales go up in the beer category as a whole, and that increase comes partly from the advertised brands, but also goes beyond that. So some consumers presumably just pick up on the fact beer is being advertised today, they get reminded of, I want to buy beer, and hence we see an increase in beer sales. And that's beyond the individual product being advertised. At the same time, we also find that the effect stops there. So to the extent that stores might have the hope that driving more people to the beer aisle through advertising will then spill over into higher sales for salty snacks or other categories that are stocked nearby, we find no evidence for that whatsoever. So things stop at the category level, but they go beyond the individual product being advertised. And so hence, as we think about allocating advertising budget, thinking about effectiveness at the level of the category rather than the more narrow product level or the broader store level seems to be the right way to tackle that managerial decision.